Let me change my name. Way to go! You started the recording just like I do to Charles. Way to go! I'm renaming myself. Just a second, David Donkey.
Oh,
So,
I should probably do that too. Hold on.
okay. Larcy, it is awesome to be in here. Like, I have not seen you for a while.
It's been a while. I'm definitely old, like I'm very heads down in Action Academy universe. And when I say universe, it is universe.
Totally. Yes. So here's where I want what I want to I asked you to okay, it's being recorded. Great, got that.
Yep. Yep.
Let's see. Oh, we should both be pinned. Okay, no, we're good. Look, people all the time say to me, where do you get these young people? All right. Where do you get these incredible young people? And I'm like, that's our Action Academy program over
Yes.
there. All right. So a lot of people who listen to these podcasts, they certainly know a bit about Action Academy. Let's just start with an assumption that they know nothing. Okay, so very tight. What's a tight, short answer about what Action Academy is?
Gosh, I don't, I always try to find ways to condense something down to like 2 or 3 words, and I can't. I really can't. But what I have been focused on recently, though, is I have been actually telling people that it's a summer civic intensive program, because
Okay.
it is a very intensive program. It's super structured. We carry them through the learning and the education to the action. Right, I was just going through the action hours of how many students have had action hours this past summer, and it's just crazy how much activity the students do. So it's a summer program, 10 weeks, of course. We decided that a long time ago. But they learn about voting rights history. So I've been telling folks, particularly when I was talking to people at the DNC, I told them it's a civic intensive program that is hosted in the summer for 10 weeks for students. And at the end of the program, they get $1,000 as a stipend because they do spend that much time with us.
And the students come from all over the world, I know, but particularly all over the country, right?
Yes. Yes. So right now we're listed at 31 states from where the students come from, this particular cohort. And I think we're up to like 118 or 21 organizations and or colleges, schools that kind of all clump together, just where the students have entered through our system. But it's 100 plus. So they're representing community colleges, regular colleges, H, C, H, what is it again? Historically,
HBCUs.
thank you. I'm like, there's a letter in there I'm missing. But elite colleges like a Yale and the Harvards and the Stanfords, like they're all up there. And the bulk of how students like hear about us is actually through word of mouth from alumni who've gone through the program in previous cohorts. So we don't have to go and out like advertise a bunch of stuff out there. We just tell a student like bring a friend.
10 weeks,
10 weeks.
twice a week.
Yep.
All on Zoom, right?
Yes.
All on Zoom. And you're saying 31 states and 120-ish organizations, which are schools or other places that they're, right?
Yes.
And that's just this summer's cohort.
That's just this summer. Yep.
Wow. Okay, so we pay them $1,000 because we know that this is in place of a job for many people. And it might be the case that people who are volunteers in Common Power might have had historical experiences where they or their children could afford to do internships for free and not have a big summer job. But that's not actually how you build a more just and inclusive democracy.
Yes, absolutely. And over 75% of our students are BIPOC. And these are students that, like you said, could not traditionally go out there and afford a volunteer effort or a volunteer approach to internship. And then let alone even having access to that internship, let it be in a civic organization or a civic internship about how they can participate in our American democracy. That's already like a narrow lane to begin with.
Okay. All right, I want to just get a couple more basics on the table, and then I want to step back and ask you to tell us a little bit more about the curriculum.
Yes.
So a couple more basics on the table. 10 weeks, and when they graduate, do some of them go on to do voter field work with us?
Oh, absolutely. So 100% of our students become activated in the academy as volunteers in the civic space. we always encourage them to come deeper into our pipeline in Common Power. So there's what we call an action hour requirement component to it. And these are your elective action hours, and these are your required action hours. That is text banking, phone banking. All of our electives are like, come be in community with us, do your own civic action. So it's tracked throughout those 10 weeks. I was just going through with Ellie today about which students have completed their action hours and which ones still need to make it up. So this week is media week. So it's a big campaign week. And so we always have students, what we call the multiplier effect. So David, if I'm attending one of the action hours, I could bring you, and you can also count as an action hour for me. So it gives them an ability to be like, you're already organizing, you're already doing it. You can call five friends. You could call 5 friends. So you can see in our signups, like you'll see my name, and then you'll see your name, and then it indicates who brought me here. So we go back to the student and say, look, you already know the basics of organizing. So let's just go into that skill a little bit more. So we track it. And then after that, though, we go into what we call our student highlights. And so student highlights are really just the students who really just kind of shown a big interest in what we're doing, and or the students who've completely been transformed by the work and or the learning environment in the academy. And then we definitely handhold them through the process of transitioning into field work. So right now I was just looking at our pre-interest signups, and we're above 35 or 36 is what I saw this morning. And that's a lot, considering right now what's happening with our students is they're going back to school. Some of them are leaving for their overseas, like study abroad programs that they're doing. So we do see a fallout of continuation, just because they go back to school. And what we do really, really well in Common Power is that there is an intentional effort to follow those students. And to just say, okay, I get it that you're going to be overseas in Italy student. However, you'll be back in December. We'll put you on the priority list for any upcoming opportunities within that time frame that you can, contribute and participate with us. But overall, we're seeing a really great response on our pre-travel interest forms, and already the team is curating where and when these students can travel across the season.
So in the organization that is Common Power, it's actually a couple different organizations, as you and I and Charles and Terry well know. It's a C3 charitable education organization, and that's one part of us, and that's where Action Academy resides. Nonpartisan, not a nonprofit charitable education. In that space, it's not a partisan endeavor. It's not. Then we have a C4 and a political action committee, which allow us to do more partisan work in the political arena. So if somebody goes through Action Academy and then says, hey, I'm raising my hand, I want to go do some work this fall for John Tester in Montana or Ruben Gallego in Arizona, they actually leave the C3 space, hop over the firewall, right? They hop over the firewall into our C4 and political action committee dollars. And that's what we've been raising money for in the last couple of days. Actually, our 47,000 for 47,047 hours for the 47th POTUS. That money, almost all of it, is going to go towards supporting these young people to go out into the field. All right. And that's the political money, not the C3 money. So do you make this point very clearly to them that, hey, you live in Action Academy in this nonpartisan space, and then when you go over there, you're entering a different neighborhood or a different house?
Oh, absolutely. The students can't do anything partisan until after they graduate from the academy. So even though we have text banking and phone banking, a lot of it's curated training that the CP Future team will do, just how to phone bank or how do you text bank. What are some like voter registration efforts that we do throughout the entire academy? All we're trying to learn and teach, or all we're trying to teach the students so that they can learn, is relational organizing. Which 5 friends do you know that you can call, and regardless of anything, they will not question why they're showing up, right? and then also, like, okay, we're going to do voter registration during voting rights week, right? And so what we do then is provide 3 or 4 different templates of any kind of language and outreach, whether they want to use their social media, whether they want to text a friend, whether they want to do a video reel, which they're doing, throughout our social media. But everything, all we do is give them the tools and just say, pick the one you want to use, because we want to make it fun. We want to make it easy so that they do come back to do this again and again, because once they understand some of the mechanics around it in a very, curated kind of structured place, like in CP Future and Action Academy, it won't be so jarring for them and such a big cultural shock when they do travel in the fall. And then now they're having different language around, oh, this is why you should register to vote. So a lot of it's just kind of like, kind of almost like a boot camp over here, but it is with their friends, it is with their peers, and everyone who's in this same space has been in their shoes. So nothing is new to teach them, all the ways that some other person may have felt that it was awkward to pick up that phone call the first time.
Part of the genius of Action Academy and the way you've created it is that you have alumni who've graduated 1 year come back.
Yes.
And they're what's called crew leads.
Yep.
They're your leads. And at the University of Washington, we had what are called teaching assistants who would work with a faculty member and they'd be a graduate student, and they would help the undergraduates to kind of process content, make sense of it, review for exams, write papers, all kinds of stuff. And these teaching assistants, they're called TAs, are usually one, depending upon which class it is, it's usually one TA for about every 50 to 100 students. All right. You have a crew leads that I believe is a much smaller crew lead to student ratio, right? Yeah. So and how do those crew leads work?
Oh, absolutely. So what we want to try to do with the crew leads is we want to at least make them be 1 to 2 years from that cohort, right?
Okay.
And the reason for that is we want them to have fresh memory of what happened to them, to their experience a year before, because the content does change depending on the election cycle or what is kind of the hot civic topics that we are learning, and more having our curriculum and our content really more like up to date. So we don't want somebody from like the 2020 cohort, for example, be the crew lead, because there's still so much time in between that they have to like really dig back in their memory banks to be like, oh yeah, Slay the Dragon, Freedom Summer, or maybe the content has completely changed since the last time they did it, and I don't want there to be confusion or any kind of quote unquote judgment to be like, oh, that's not how we did it. So we try to keep it very close. So the bulk of actually all of our crew leads this year were participants last year. And this has been the tightest relationship with the mentorship that we have in our cohort now. And it's probably why we were able to expand as big as we have gone this cohort, knowing that also it was a big election cycle. Knowing also we had record numbers of applications submitted, but the relationship between the participants and the crew leads are very strong because they all came from last year's Action Academy.
Okay. So now you have these crew leads and you have 100 to 150-ish students, which is our biggest crew, the biggest size ever and we had well over 200 applicants. And they get other jobs, things happen. They don't all come, of course. It's like students who apply to colleges. They don't all go to those colleges.
Yes.
But you have another really cool thing you have is that you design the crew. If I'm following this, the crew leads each like have a state that they focus on or something like that, right?
Yep. So every year we always ask, what state crew do you want to lead? And a lot of times, like maybe more than half of the participants who do come back as crew leads, they want to be the crew lead for the state they were a participant in. So if I was in last year's cohort as a participant in the Texas crew, I may come back a lot of times, more often than not, they come back and be the crew lead for Texas. It's a really cool step up program. And some crew leads are like, it doesn't matter. I still had a really great time. Put me wherever, which is where we like it anyway. But they usually come back and say like, oh, Puya was my crew lead, or Ben was my crew lead, or Jessica was my crew lead. And then they become the crew lead for that state crew. And then they really walk the students through the entire content of our syllabus, knowing like, oh, we're going to learn about gerrymandering this week and prison gerrymandering. And now we get to go and dissect Texas as to why they are anti-democratic in this approach.
So those states aren't randomly chosen though.
No.
They align with the fieldwork states that
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That
Yep.
so if someone wants to hop over that firewall and go do fieldwork with us, it's probably going to be the case that they're
Yes.
or there's a good chance that they're going to end up in the state that they focused on.
Absolutely. That's what we encourage, because now when they're ready to travel and they are, again, have they've graduated from the academy, now they've learned all the things why Texas is Texas. They want to go travel to that state. Now, it doesn't happen 100% accurately all the time based on schedule, of course, because they're students and they have, their schooling that they have to prioritize, and also availability of that particular, team travel. However, the content around our syllabus is all the same. What expands democracies in these states or what suppresses them. And so wherever we go, even in our choices of our top priority states at Common Power, they know structurally why the state is the way that it is. So they could hop anywhere. Like, even though I could be a participant from Texas as the state crew, I could go to Wisconsin and I still know about the gerrymandering that's happening over there, why there may have been, what makes it blue, what makes it purple, what makes it red. So all of these, again, topics that we curate throughout the academy, they know that that particular state has at least touched one of those syllabus content.
Okay, so let's think about the kinds of students that come into the program. So in my mind, there might be a bucket, a type of student that is the student body president in their high school or their college, or they're the president of the Young Democrats, or civic leaders for tomorrow, or something like that. So there's like this bucket of overachiever, exceptional, leader. Okay, then well, is that the whole bucket, or is that actually how big?
No, so we intentionally go to certain organizations that are already doing political work. There are the easiest to recruit, right? Because they want to learn more. They're already in the lane. They may have some topic of some sort that they want to learn about, continue to learn about. So they're easy signups to the academy. One of the approaches we're trying to do really is figure out the students in that periphery. So the students who would never do this anyway unless there was a big incentive, right? So the $1,000 is the hook. So if they're not already volunteering for free, we can get them another way. And another one would just be who's your friend? Who do you trust? There's centers of trust, and just saying, just do it because it was fun and I got something out of it. Therefore, you're going to get something out of it too. May not be necessarily equate to political activism or engagement, right? It's just that they have a trusted source they got this information from, and they're going to honor that trusted source. So those are the periphery students, and they're actually the best recruit pipeline into this, because the students who are already in political spaces, they're going to get their opportunities. They have connections already. But the students who are just randomly bump into this, or randomly dragged by their friend to come join this Bring a Friend event, and they're like, wait, what? What do you mean this is the thing? Or what do you mean I get money? There's a hook. And so we try to get them from all of these different kind of relationship sources, so that when they come in, we already know how we can kind of invite them more into this space and engage them more into this space.
So what percentage would you say are people who how much of this content do they know before they come?
Man, a lot of our feedback surveys that we do a mid-program survey, and then an after-program survey. And I would say 80 to 90% of students do not know the content. They may know some, they may know about a gerrymandering, or they may know about, redlining, or they may know about the amendments, but not the way that we curate it and thread the story of voting around it. One of the, particularly one of your sessions with, positive and negative language on amendments and laws, how we then couple that with facially neutral laws, it just adds a little bit of gas to that knowledge, to be oh, okay, so this is one thing I know, but now it's connected to this thing, and then it just blows their mind, and then realize oh my gosh, it is all connected. So the last topic we did last week was about special interest groups, right? Because it talked about ALEC and it talked about gerrymandering and industrialization of mass incarceration and felony disenfranchisement. Again, all these connections. And then somebody said, if you don't do politics, politics will do you. And it was like, now you're getting it. Now you're getting it.
Yeah, that's like, that's so good. When I was in my late 20s, I had this moment with my wife, Lisa, who we of course know well. And I said, why do I have to deal with these emotions? Why? Why do we have to talk about these? Why do we have to deal with them? And she said, because whether or not you deal with them, they're going to deal with you.
Exactly.
All right?
Exactly. And so the academy teaches them how to be active participants. And even if it's really complex, even if it's really like, I have no idea all of these things are occurring, we teach them down to to a level of like, well, what do you do on the day-to-day anyway? You're a student, right? You're concerned about student lifestyles. You want to make sure there's public funding going into your schools. You want to make sure that the access to you going to these schools are easy. What about your FAFSA form? Oh, you live in Washington State, but you go to school in like New York. How do you get your ballot? So we teach them all of these ways that on their day-to-day, it is super connected. And as soon as we go down to that, like really micro level of their own ability to engage in it, then it starts to make sense about the other pieces. So we only focus on like, how does this affect you every day? Because again, it's like really this complex thing up there. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, I mean, we did a survey and said, okay, how many here in high school and or college voted for your prom king and queen? People raise their hand and they're like, well, that was voting. Why did you vote for that person? And some people are like, oh, because I liked them, because I knew them, or because I wanted to support them. And then so we start to go into those conversations, again, make it so much more relatable on their day-to-day.
And so you have speakers all the way through these 10 weeks. Some are
Yes.
teachers like Dr. Terry and me, other professors.
Yep.
You have civil rights heroes. You have community organizers. You have organizational leaders. You have some from the legal realm, some from the political realm. Is there an event this week with one of those?
Yes.
Team Marie King?
Yes. Yeah. So we have two major campaigns that occur. So we have Voting Rights Week that occurs during the week of the anniversary of the Voting Rights Act. And we do a big campaign that week because that's when our semester students start to shift their heads about going back to school. So we want to capture them and make sure they're doing a bunch of action hours and getting them deeper into our engagement. And the other week of campaign that we do is Media Week. So this week is Media Week, and we only do Media Week at the tail end of our program because this is where the quarter system students go back and like kind of pivot back into school mode. So this week we're kicking off Media Week with a special presentation, or what we call a special session, with T. Marie King, and she's going to talk about the relationship between race and media throughout history. Because it's Media Week, we talk about how the role of media, that either is in our ability to consume that information through media, and then what we do as arbiters of that information to put it out there using media as well. So it's an in and out process, and we're kicking off Media Week today with T. Marie. We're actually starting in like 3 minutes. So I probably have to hop off soon to start the Zoom. But that's what we do. Like, and this is the cool thing that we've started this time around, is that there's always curiosity outside of the Gen Z generation about, hey, I want to get a peek into Action Academy. So this year we started 2 types of sessions, extended sessions and special sessions, where we open it up to everybody. So people outside of the academy, our normal community goers, can get a chance to peek into the content that we deliver. And I'm happy to say, like, today we have over like 50 plus signups for this special session with T. Marie. And I was looking at some of the names, and I recognize a lot of our community members coming in to join us in this special session with her. So that's one thing that's really been successful, is that kind of opening the door to how other people can engage with us this way, by doing these special sessions with our key legacy speakers.
So T. Marie lives in Birmingham, Alabama, and she's been a community leader there for a decade plus, and meets our learning tours when we go there. We'll see her in a couple of weeks when we do our next one. And she also comes in and teaches in the program for you guys,
Yes.
right?
Yes. She's one of our legacy speakers. She's talked a few years now with us at Action Academy. And then the students also love it that when they hop on the learning tour with you all in the Institute, that they get to meet her in person. So it is a full circle moment, that it's just not like, oh, we're just only engaging with each other here in these squares, but they actually get to meet them in person out there in the field with our community members that do choose to travel with us, and or these learning tours, these learning tour opportunities.
Okay. All right. I know you got to go. Last question for you. So did you have this kind of a program when you were younger?
No, not at all. I keep hearing a lot from all generations. I wish I had this growing up. I wish there was something, this type of opportunity where I get to learn and get paid for learning. And people just think it's that easy. Like, oh, what? I'm just getting paid to sit there and like listen to these Zooms. Like, no, we are organizing. Our crew leads are on you about doing your action hours. They're recruiting you to go do action hours. Like, there's a lot of communication between our participants and our crew leads to just get that engagement going. So it is, like I said, it is an intensive program. And also, like, it is equivalent to a summer school, because we also tell our students, go talk to your professor or your academic advisor. I would be more than happy, we would be more than happy to offer you credit for the syllabus. And we have not been turned down by any academic, or academic advisor or professor to give a student a credit of some sort while they're learning in this space. So we're 1 for 1 here. And probably a total of like 15 credits that we've given out to students just for attending Action Academy.
So all these students that are going to jump over that firewall and go do field work, we're going to see them out in the field this fall, right?
Absolutely.
So everybody, you're going to be seeing them, and they're going to have gone through it. And also, they're still growing, all right? They got a lot to learn. Let's put them under our wings. Let's support them. Let's learn from them. Let's be together.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just encourage them on the path, encourage them that, you know what, there's we all have seasons ahead of them. So we want to also encourage them to stay with it the way that we have.
Hey, Larcy, your leadership is amazing.
Thank
you
David.
Created this in 2020. Thank you so much.
Yes. 5 years next year. It's amazing.
It's the same age as September, right?
Yes. Yeah. Practically. All right. I'll see you soon. You need to go too. Okay, bye.
Bye.